All right, let's get right into it. We usually think of our spiritual practices, our prayers, our reading, as just a list of duties, right? Rituals we have to perform. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if there's actually a deeper, more intentional system here? An architecture that's designed not just for checking boxes, but for real, profound personal growth. Let's be real for a minute. Have you ever gone through the motions of your worship? You finish, and you kind of just feel like you ticked a box, you did the thing, but you're not really sure if it did anything inside you? It's a common feeling, for sure.
And look, if that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. It's so easy to get caught up in the how of it, the when of it, that we totally lose sight of the why. We're doing the ritual, but that connection to its whole purpose feels, well, it feels pretty far away, maybe even lost altogether.
Okay, now this is where it starts to get really interesting. Let's try to flip this whole thing on its head. What if every single act of worship, every prayer, every day you fast, every verse of the Quran you read, what if it was all perfectly engineered as a specific tool to solve a very specific problem inside our own minds and hearts?
This slide right here, this is the absolute game changer. It's all about changing the fundamental question we ask ourselves. We need to move away from asking, did I complete my worship? And start asking, what problem is this worship trying to solve in me? When you shift from a question of performance to a question of purpose, man, that changes everything.
So let's dig into this architecture of reform. It's basically a system built around three incredibly powerful tools, and each one is designed to work on a different part of our inner world.
First up, the first tool in the toolkit is the Quran. And its main job isn't just to give us a list of rules. No, its primary function is to fundamentally rewire the way we think, the way we see everything. You could say it's the tool for our intellect.
So, what problems are we talking about here? Well, we often live in a state of what you might call heedlessness, or ghafla, just kind of sleepwalking through life mechanically. Our worldview gets all mixed up. We make tiny worldly things seem huge, and the truly important things seem small. The Quran comes in like a corrective lens. It recalibrates our sense of scale. It wakes us up, and it directly challenges the broken thinking patterns that lead to stuff like anger, pride, and fear. See? It fixes how we think long before it tells us what to do.
All right, on to our second tool, Salah, the 5 daily prayers. And this is so much more than just a ritual break in our day. Salah is actually the tool for managing our identity and, maybe most importantly, our ego. You know how it is. As the day goes on, it's so easy for our ego to get bigger and bigger, to get wrapped up in our own self-importance, and to just slowly drift away from our spiritual center. Salah is the built-in reset button. 5 times a day, it stops that process cold. By putting our forehead on the ground, we physically and spiritually hit pause on arrogance. It pulls our identity back to its center, reminds us who we are in relation to God, and stops that slow, quiet moral decay in its tracks.
And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? Prayer has a real, functional, preventative job to do. It's not some passive thing we do. It's an active shield that literally restrains us from messing up by constantly fixing our internal compass.
And that brings us to our third tool, fasting. Its purpose is incredibly precise. It's the tool designed to train and discipline our desires. It tackles the root problem of impulse control head-on.
I love this slide because it perfectly captures the power of fasting. Most of the time, we live in this state of, I feel it, so I do it. We feel an impulse, and we just act on it. But fasting forces a pause. It creates this little pocket of space between a desire and our action. And in that space, we go from being a slave to our impulses to being the one in charge. That shift from I do it to I choose, that's not restriction, my friends. That is true liberation. That's how we build authority over our lower self.
So when you put it all together, you start to see it's not just a random collection of rituals at all. It's a complete, integrated system. The Quran takes care of our confused thinking. Salah handles our spiritual ego and keeps us connected. And fasting trains our willpower and disciplines our desires. It's a holistic toolkit for becoming a better human. Okay, so if these tools are designed to produce specific outcomes, that raises a really big question. How are we measuring our success? Are we even looking at the right things? And this, right here, is where I think most of us get it wrong. We are obsessed with the metric of completion. Did I finish my chapter? Did I pray exactly on time? Did I make it through the whole fast? But those are just performance stats. The real metrics are about transformation. Did reading that verse actually change my thinking? Did that prayer chip away at my ego?
Did fasting all day actually change how I react to things? We're so busy measuring the action, we forget to measure the outcome.
So this is really the call to action for all of us. We have to consciously shift our mindset from just performing a ritual to being aware of the outcome. The goal wasn't just to do the thing. The goal was to let the thing do its work on us.
So how do we actually do this? Well, when you finish reading a passage of the Quran, don't just close the book and walk away. Pause and ask yourself these questions. How did that change the way I see something? What flaw in my own thinking did that just put a spotlight on? Because without that reflection, reading is just collecting information. With it, it becomes transformation. And the same thing goes for prayer. After you finish, just take 1 second. Ask yourself, did I actually feel humble? For just a moment, did the size of my worries shrink? And maybe most importantly, is that brief connection going to affect the very next decision I make? These are the questions that tell us if the prayer did its job of resetting our identity.
And when you're fasting, the hunger itself is a diagnostic tool. Don't just suffer through it, use it. What desires are coming to the surface? Where am I most impulsive? What makes me angry when I'm hungry? Is my patience actually getting better? See, without these questions, fasting is just a really long, hungry day. With them, it's an intensive training program for your soul.
And that brings us to the one single question that sums up this entire shift in thinking. Instead of asking if we finished our worship, we should be asking ourselves this every single day. What part of me did this worship perform today? Answering that question honestly, well, like I said, that changes everything.